Hello, Sunnyside. What a blessing it is to be able to just be before to come before you again and share some things that I think that you just might want to know. All right. One of the first things is if you're dealing with a rent issue or you have an eviction issue that you're dealing with, you may want to go online to housing.lacity.org. Now, this is not just for renters, but you may also get some information if you are a homeowner or you are a manager. Again, that's housing.lacity.org. Over the last week or so, quite a bit has been happening. I'll say that pertains to Black history. Okay, since I last spoke with you, there have been a number of deaths and really the anniversary of some deaths. The anniversary of, 3 years ago, George Floyd on May the 25th, 2020, the nation and perhaps the world viewed his 9-minute, 27-second death at the knee of a police officer who was sworn to protect and to serve. The procedure that he used to kill him was a chokehold, okay? And this officer's name is Derek Chauvin. Also killed by chokehold was Eric Garner. And I think the one thing he was accused of was selling cigarettes. At the same time, in New York City, an ex-Marine ended up using a chokehold to kill a homeless and mentally challenged person in the name of Jordan Neely. That was in New York. The one thing that they seem to all have in common is this chokehold tends to be used on Black men. Okay, so just be aware, be conscious of that. Malcolm Little, better known as Malcolm X, was assassinated in 1965 at the Audubon Ballroom in Harlem. I use those details just in case you're playing a Jeopardy game, okay, and you want to know some specifics. He was born May 19th, 1925, and had he lived, he would be 98 years old. He was a prominent activist and minister during the 1960s civil rights movement. There are some quotes then that he would be remembered as saying. One is, "Truth is on the side of the oppressed." One that I remember was, "By any means necessary." And I was wondering, what was that complete quote? So I found myself doing some research. And the complete quote was, "We declare our right on this earth to be a man, to be a human being, to be respected as a human being, to be given the rights of a human being in this society, on this earth, in this day, which we intend to bring into existence by any means necessary." Again, by any means necessary. Malcolm X made that statement in 1965. This past week, in honor of Malcolm's contributions, there is a 5-mile stretch of Crenshaw Boulevard that has been codenamed Malcolm X Route. It crosses the Rosa Park Freeway. It crosses Obama Boulevard. It goes down to Lamert Park. It continues on to Destination Crenshaw, to that mural, which is located 4911 to 5107 Crenshaw. And it ends up at Nipsey Hussle Square there on Slauson. So again, a 5-mile stretch of Crenshaw Boulevard has been codenamed to honor Malcolm X. the Malcolm X route. Okay, I hope this picture of Malcolm shows, okay, the words might appear backwards here. All right, but again, that is Malcolm X. All right. Continuing on. Again, quite a bit has happened. Jim Brown, an NFL star, an actor, an activist, a legendary fullback. He quit the game to pursue a Hollywood career and to advocate for civil rights. Okay, he's considered one of the greatest players of all time. He died at the age of 87. 87. In 1988, Jim Brown founded America I Can. It's a national organization to rehabilitate gang members and former prisoners. The aim was to enable individuals to meet their academic potential, conform their behavior to acceptable standards, and to equip them to successfully contribute to society. Jim Brown was known for brokering peace deals between rival street gangs, and he had meetings with at-risk youth in his home in the Hollywood Hills, as well as in other cities. But again, Jim Brown, and I'm showing you some of the places where I get my information from, okay? From the Wave, okay? From the Sentinel, all right? Again, the words may not be visible, but there are any number of pictures in here about the life of Jim Brown, okay? A member of 3 Sports Hall of Fame, okay? Jim Brown, okay? This is from the LA Times, the LA Times. So you may want to look at the copies you already have or just acquire them, okay? I also get information from the LA News Observer. Again, legendary NFL movie star and activist Jim Brown dies at the age of 87. Continuing on, at the age of 83, her name, Tina Turner, the undisputed queen of rock and roll, died in Switzerland this past week following a long illness. The energy, oh my goodness, the energy that Tina Turner had when she was performing was just amazing. She was truly an entertainer. She created, I'll say, the blueprints for, if you like Beyonce, if you like Janet Jackson, okay, Tina Turner created the blueprints for them, okay? She was just enormously talented. And her performances with Ike and Tina Turner, or the Ike and Tina Turner Review, okay, raised the bar for live performances. They did, well, a couple of songs that come to mind is River Deep, Mountain High, okay? Proud Mary. Oh, I can see my cousin now. When we had our talent shows for our family reunion. All right, James Herbert and his wife at one time did an Ike and Tina Turner Review, okay? Later on, okay, after they divorced, that is, Ike and Tina divorced, she really reinvented herself. And she went as a solo performer. She really became known for the song, What's Love Got to Do with It? I can hear it now. What's love got to do with it? Okay. And Private Dancer, again, Tina Turner. If you've been listening to the radio this week, you have really heard her music being shared. Tina received a star at the Hollywood Walk of Fame in front of the Capitol Records building back in 1986. 1986. Again, she truly broke down barriers for generations of artists to come. Okay, again, Tina Turner. Tina Turner, okay? And again, I'm not trying to hide where I get my information from, okay? Different local newspapers, from radio station 102.3, okay? Stevie Wonder station, all right. I can see her singing, What's Love Got to Do with It Now? Okay, but the energy that Tina Turner showed, all right, we have really been blessed with talent and unfortunately have really lost some significant people as part of our race. In looking at the paper this past week, I came across an article that just made me think back in terms of some Black history that I experienced. And I'll often say the Birmingham in me, okay, and that I was in Birmingham at a time when it was known as Birmingham. Well, this article I'd like to just share with you. I was surprised when I saw it that it said 60th anniversary recalls heroic children's movement. I didn't realize it was 60 years ago, even though it was in the 1960s, 1963, really to be exact. And we're in 2023. All right, I'm going to just share this article. If you know of someone from Birmingham, someone from the South, clue them in on this. They can go online and look up Marion Wright Edelman. Okay, she was the founder of the Children's Defense Fund. But if you'll go to Marion Wright Edelman and look up the Children's March, I'm going to share some information about this. In fact, I'm going to share this article. During this 60th anniversary of the Birmingham Children's Crusade, it's time again to remember, honor, and follow the example of the children who were frontline soldiers and transforming catalysts in the movement for civil rights and equal justice. One often wonders, I'm just a child, what can I do? You'd be surprised as to what one can do. The Children's Crusade happened at a crucial time in the civil rights struggle in Birmingham. In April 1963, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference gathered with the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights, and its fearless leader, Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth, has started a desegregation campaign in the city. Again, from time to time, I'm going to stop to just interject. As people are aware of things that interest you, they will see to it that you get copies of it. And again, during that time, it's amazing how I have copies of different funeral programs. One of my cousins, thank you, Geraldine, sent me a copy of the program for Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth. She knew it was something that I would really want to see, something that I would treasure. There were mass meetings, lunch counter sit-ins, non-violent marches, and boycotts of Birmingham's segregated stores during the busy Easter shopping season. The Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was one of several hundred people arrested in the first weeks of the campaign when he was jailed for violating an anti-protest injunction on Good Friday, April 12th. Those mass meetings, that was one of the things that we would talk about as we were leaving school. Are you going to go to the meeting? Are you going to go to the meeting tonight? Okay, that's where people actually congregated. It was just truly exciting. And oftentimes when you would get there, you'd be told, Dr. King is coming to the meeting tonight. Now, the meeting might be scheduled for like 5 or 6 or 7 in the evening. But again, Dr. King would get there really late. Remember, he was one then that had to kind of move around, and not be in obvious locations. But at those mass meetings, if you were a child, it was understood if an adult came and stood, you were just expected to just get up and move. So many times I had to get up and give my seat to an adult and go downstairs or move to another place, that I did not end up seeing Dr. King. All right. But again, I was taught, okay, you don't sit when an adult stands. 4 days later, he wrote his famous letter from Birmingham jail. But as the days went on with little response from city leaders, a new tactic was raised, including more children. Young people didn't face some of the risks adults might, including losing bread-winning jobs, and college students had already proven to be extremely effective activists in cities across the South. But once it became clear that many of the children volunteering for meetings and training sessions in Birmingham were high school students or even younger, concerns were raised about whether allowing them to protest was too dangerous. For the children, May 2nd was D-Day. Black disc jockeys were key allies in encouraging and deploying their listeners, and class presidents, star athletes, and prom queens from local schools led the way as hundreds of children skipped class, gathered at the 16th Street Baptist Church, and marched into downtown Birmingham in groups of 50, organized into lines 2 by 2 and singing freedom songs, okay? The black disc jockey, the one that I remember, was Shelley the Playboy, okay? And I also do remember being in, I believe, my social studies class, possibly with Miss Gorey, and the statement was made, you know, I have to take roll, but when I turn around, I can only take roll of the people who I actually see and hear. So she would actually turn her back, and as she turned her back, the class would literally leave, okay? I'll say many in the class would leave. And it was called to my attention to one of the students that she couldn't leave. Her parents told her, no, you must stay, okay? Some parents would lose their jobs if their children participated. So it was interesting as I thought about this, that's a different point of view as to why some children actually stayed. Another thing, my grandfather told us, okay, don't you get involved with that movement. Don't you get involved. Don't you get caught up in all of that. And my grandmother, on the other hand, said, well, I can't tell you not to participate because hopefully you will live long enough so that you will reap the benefits of your actions. The thing that was interesting is while my grandfather was saying, don't get involved, his son was on that news being hosed by the firemen at that time, okay? So again, I have some Black history moments that I really do remember. More than 1,000 students marched the first day, and hundreds were arrested. Segregationist Police Commissioner Bull Connor overwhelmed force started using school buses to take the children to jail. But that first wave of children was only the beginning. When hundreds more returned the next day, Connor directed the police and fire department to begin using force on the child marchers. The decision surprised even those used to his meanness and brutality, but it was not enough to stop the marchers. The searing, heartbreaking photos of children being battered by powerful fire hoses and attacked by police dogs appeared on front pages around the country and the world and helped turn public opinion in support of the fight for justice. Again, that was one of the things then that was really, really crucial, seeing how children, those water hoses, and they would tell you then that they were strong enough that the force from the water hose would really strip the bark off of trees, okay? And it could literally break your back. Marchers and protests continued in Birmingham, with children leading the way. As more were arrested and attacked, others kept coming to take their place, leaving jails so overflowing that some child prisoners were held at the city's fairground and in an open-air stockade where they were pelted by rain. That reminds me of the fact that Blacks were not allowed to go to the fairgrounds, to the Birmingham fairgrounds, until the very last day of the fair. But again, the jails were overflowing. So as a result, they ended up taking children out to the fairground. On May 8th, a temporary truce was called, and on May 10th, an agreement was reached that released the jailed children and others on bond and paved the way for desegregation of Birmingham's public facilities. That might have been a time when my brother was released from jail. Okay, Philip, I'm calling you out. As I mentioned this article to him, he told me that he was in jail for 8 days. I did not realize that, but I do know then that he was in jail at the same time that Dr. King was there, quite possibly writing letter from a Birmingham jail. I thought I had a copy of that, but I couldn't locate it. Hateful segregationists in the city did not give in quietly. Within hours, the Gaston Motel, that was the A.G. Gaston Motel, where King and other SCLC leaders stayed, and King's brother, Reverend A.D. King's home, were firebombs. Okay, remember I told you, Birmingham was the nickname that was given to the city of Birmingham. 4 months later, so again, this was interesting. I didn't realize until reading this article, that all of this led up to this. 4 months later, a bomb was placed under the steps of the 16th Street Baptist Church with a timer deliberately set to go off on Sunday morning. The bomb exploded as children were in the church's basement preparing to lead Sunday services. And 14-year-old Addie Mae Collins, Carol Robinson, Cynthia Wesley, and 11-year-old Denise McNair were all killed. Again, along with some 20 others that were injured. Again, I did not realize all of this happened during that same year. So September 15th is the time when this bombing actually took place, 1963. 4 months later, when an interviewer asked King how he felt after the bombing, he first described his despair, thinking that if men could be that bestial, maybe there really was no hope. But he said, time eventually buoyed me with the inspiration of another moment, which I shall never forget. When I saw with my own eyes over 3,000 young Negro boys and girls, totally unarmed, leave Birmingham's 16th Street Baptist Church to march to a prayer meeting, ready to pit nothing but the power of their bodies and soul against Bull Connor's police dogs, clubs, and fire hoses. Okay? The same example that Boyd King should still inspire us today. Again, an article written by Marion Wright Edelman. You may want to go online because it's available. One of the quilts that I ended up doing was one of Cynthia Wesley, who was a classmate of mine. And I ended up also doing a quilt of the 4 girls. So whenever I'm invited to participate in a quilt event, that quilt of the 4 girls is one that is most requested. So just do know, our history is alive. We have experienced some things in our lifetimes, and it's important that you tell your story. Make sure you do tell your story, because when you leave, that might be the end of your story. As I get ready to close, do know that the pandemic as we know it no longer exists, but the dangers are still there, and you must do what you feel is in your best interest. If you feel it is in your best interest to wear a mask, do just that. Again, thank you so much. God bless.